Hey guys, Samuel Allred here. Welcome back to the Persistence Outdoors podcast. We've got a lot to cover in this episode, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. Today we're going to talk about how to start hunting. Maybe you've never hunted before, or maybe you've hunted a little and you need a refresher. I'm going to give you 10 steps, and if you follow them, you will be able to hunt this fall. Now, hunting season is almost upon us, depending on where you live. So if you've never hunted before, you're going to have to start on these steps as soon as possible to make sure you're ready by September, October, November, whenever you plan to hunt. And it will take some work. It's pretty involved starting out, but once you get the hang of it, it's just going to get easier and easier. Before we jump in, if you enjoy this podcast, if you've learned something new, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars on whatever platform you listen on, hit that follow button, and most importantly, share an episode with a friend. When you share an episode with a friend, you're helping the podcast grow, and you're also helping more people get outside and into hunting, which is what the podcast is all about. So thank you for being a part of that mission. Thank you for your support. And let's get into our topic for today. All right, so step 1, if you want to start hunting, is to complete a hunter education course. This is a course that is designed to teach you about safety while hunting and sort of give you the essential skills and knowledge needed to be safe and responsible in the field. Hunter education is required by most states for most hunters, so it's likely that that's where you will need to start. You can find a course for your state just by Googling hunter education in whatever state. So for me, it would be Hunter Education Idaho, and different courses will pop up. Some of them will be online, some of them will be hybrid, and you have to complete that course before you will be able to get a hunting license or anything like that. Now, if you've completed a hunter education course in a different state and then moved, that hunter education course may be accepted by the new state you're in. So check that out. For example, I completed my hunter education in Washington, eventually ended up in Idaho, and Idaho accepts the certification that I got in Washington for my hunter's education. Sometimes, by the way, you will hear this called hunter's safety. Those are the same things. Hunter's education and hunter's safety are the same things. My main tip is to schedule this soon. It's going to take you a decent amount of time. I remember the course that I took was 2 8-hour days. So it was a weekend course and it was 2 8-hour days. Yours might take more or less, just depending on the format and if it's hybrid or not. But it will take some time and you need to schedule it soon so that you get it out of the way before the season starts. Okay, step number 2 is to read your regulations. Every state game agency is going to publish a booklet that details all the regulations and rules for hunting in their state. And usually they will publish these as a printed magazine type booklet that you can get in a sporting goods store. And they will also publish it online as a PDF that you can scroll through. I recommend that if you're just starting out, go get the physical copy of the regulations. This will be found at any sporting goods store, so Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, even Walmart often has copies of this booklet. And usually they will be divided up by game animal. So in Idaho, we have a booklet for big game. We have a booklet for turkeys and upland game. We have a booklet for waterfowl. So you can grab all of them if you want, or if you know what you're going to hunt, just grab the booklet for what you are going to hunt. And once you get this booklet, you need to start by reading the general hunting regulations. Now, to be clear, every state lays out their rule book a little bit differently. And so you may find that one state's looks a lot different than another state's. Usually, though, there is going to be some general hunting information that applies to most species. So it might talk about what time of day you can hunt. It might talk about whether or not you can hunt near roads or shoot over roads. It might talk about shooting from vehicles and different restrictions that are usually pretty common sense, but you need to know so you don't accidentally violate them. If you can't find a specific general rules section, then just go to the species that you want to hunt and you'll start finding the information there. When you pick up this booklet, you're going to notice that it has a lot of pages, it has a lot of charts, a lot of information, and let me just encourage you to get in there and engage with it. And in my experience, it's kind of like playing a board game for the first time. So when you're setting up a board game that you don't know how to play, you are going to reference the rules a lot. And then you're going to start trying to play and you're not going to know something. So you're going to reference the rules again. And you keep going back and forth. But by the third or fourth time you play the board game, and maybe you have a friend who's playing with you and they've played a couple times, it starts to get easier and easier because you know most of the main rules, you kind of get the reasoning behind them. And I think that's a really good analogy for how your regulations work when hunting. You're going to have to read through them. You're going to have to do a deep dive. But once you've learned the bigger picture, it's all going to become easier and you're not going to have to reference them as often. And it's just going to feel a lot less overwhelming once you've kind of got that first initial knowledge dump out of the way. If you want to learn more about reading your regulations, go check out episode 16, Beginner's Guide to Hunting Regulations, everything you need to know. In that episode, I go step by step through everything you can find in the hunting regulations books. Now, the next 3 steps reference each other, so you might bounce back and forth between them. It's not super important that you go in order, but for your first time, here's the order that I recommend. So step number 3 is to determine what you want to hunt. This is usually easy for people. If you're interested in hunting, you probably have an animal in mind. Figure out what animal you want to hunt and then go back to your regulations booklet and find the page on that animal. So for example, if I want to hunt white-tailed deer in Idaho, I would get the big game hunting regulations booklet. I would find the section that talks about white-tailed deer, and I would read the introductory pages that give me all the specific rules on white-tailed deer. Here you're going to find things like what type of deer you can kill, like antlered or antlerless. You're going to find things about tagging the animal and whether it needs to be checked in somewhere once you've killed it. So just go and read everything on that page, and you'll start to figure out what you need to know. Step number 4 is to determine where you want to hunt, and really just the general area. You don't need to know the exact tree you're going to sit in for whitetail. You just need to know the unit that you're going to be hunting in. So most states are going to be split into units. And so in your regulations booklet, there will be a map of the state, and it will have different boundary lines, and it will show you that, oh, the area that you live in is unit 6, or you're going to go hunt a neighbor's farm, and that's in unit 7. So it's good to get familiar with the units, and you can find all of that information in the regulations pamphlet. Now, once you understand the unit that you're going to be hunting in, you also want to read the specific regulations for that area. And what I mean is some places will have specific rules about what type of weapons you can use, when you can hunt, if you need to pay a fee. Sometimes if you're hunting on a wildlife management area, there may be a small fee to hunt that specific area. So make sure you're familiar with not only the rules for your state, but also the area that you want to hunt. One tool that is super helpful for finding a place to hunt is an app called onX Hunt. It gives you GPS maps and aerial imagery. And I'll just say it, if you're a new hunter, go get onX Hunt. It's the best $35 you will spend on hunting in general. onX Hunt shows you private versus public land. It shows you places that you can access that land. It helps you with e-scouting, which is the process of looking at maps and features on your maps that can clue you into where animals might be. It helps you with route planning. onX Hunt is just such a valuable tool that if you're a new hunter, you should go out and get it right away. It will show you the units, and it's going to make it really easy to identify and access a place to hunt. Now, in step number 4 of determining where you want to hunt, the general area, you may also want to go scouting. And scouting is just going out and looking for places where animals are that you could hunt later. And so if you're interested in an area, it's always a good idea to go out scouting before you go hunting. You can scout at any time of year to start getting an idea of if animals live in the area that you want to hunt. And maybe this should be its own step because it really is important, but sometimes you're going to go out and hunt without having scouted. If you do have the chance, though, go out and check out the area ahead of time, and you're going to save yourself a lot of time during the hunting season looking for animals. All right, step number 5 is to determine the season that you want to hunt. So guess where we find the information about hunting seasons? You guessed it, the rules book, the regulations booklet. So go back to the regulations and find the section on the animal you want to hunt, and you already know the unit that you're going to be hunting in. Now you can find the season for that animal in that unit. The season is just the time in which you can hunt that animal. So different animals will have different seasons. For example, in North Idaho, where I live, there is usually a 2-week elk season in the units around me. And in that 2 weeks, you can hunt elk with any firearm. Or there is a 1-month archery season, and you can hunt elk in September with a bow and arrow. So seasons are going to differ by unit, by weapon, by class of animal, meaning a buck season versus a doe season, or maybe a 5-point elk season versus a spike elk season. It's going to vary by species. So a white-tailed deer and a mule deer might have 2 different seasons for hunting. It's going to vary by private or public land. And these seasons are not always linear. A lot of waterfowl seasons will start and stop and start again. So pay attention to all these different variables. And once you go to the page in your regulations booklet about the animal you want to hunt, you know which unit you're going to be hunting in. It should be pretty clear when you are allowed to legally hunt this animal. So at this point, you know the rules for hunting in your state, you know what you want to hunt, you know the unit you'll be hunting in, and you know the seasons that are open in that unit. Learning all of this is going to take you maybe 45 minutes of reading. You're going to have to cross-check a couple things, maybe flip back and forth in the rules booklet. But once you learn that, you're going to have a good idea of what you can do legally, and you're not going to have to think about it as much once you've done that initial work. So don't be intimidated by that rules booklet. Go and read it, and you're going to be better off for it. I've had multiple instances where I'm hunting with friends, and they tell me something that they think is a rule, and I just read the rules booklet, and I know as a fact that what they're telling me is not accurate. And so you don't want to be that guy, because worst case scenario, you could actually get ticketed or cited by law enforcement officers for doing something wrong. So make sure that you know the rules for yourself. Now that you've sorted through all that information, now is a good time to think about becoming proficient with your weapon. So if you don't have a weapon, now is the time to go get one. And I may talk about this more in the future, maybe choosing a rifle or a shotgun and even how to buy one. If you've never bought a gun before or a bow or whatever you're going to be hunting with, I recommend that you go to a sporting goods store and you just talk with the person behind the counter. I think that's going to be the easiest way to buy a weapon, and they can explain to you if you need a background check, anything like that that is required in your state. Now, if you are going to go out and buy a weapon for the purpose of hunting, make sure it's appropriate for your state, unit, and season. So, for example, some states require that for deer hunting, you can only use straight wall cartridges, or some units may have short range weapon restrictions, meaning you can only use bows or shotguns in those units. So thankfully, you already know what unit you're going to be hunting in. You already know what you're going to be hunting. You've read all that in the regulations booklet. And so if you need to, go double check those rules and make sure that the weapon that you're buying is something that you're going to be able to use for hunting where you want to hunt. Another good example is caliber and gauge restrictions. So, for example, you could kill a deer with a .223, which is the civilian equivalent of the 5.56 NATO round, right? You could certainly kill a deer with a .223, but many states say that you need to have a caliber of .243 or 6 millimeters or larger to hunt deer. So if you were getting excited to hunt deer and you went out and bought a .223, you'd be out of luck if you lived in one of those states. Or there might be ammo restrictions. If you are hunting turkey, a lot of people get excited about turkey hunting when I talk with them about it. And they're like, oh, what do you use? Do you use buckshot? And that would be illegal in the places that I've hunted turkeys. So keep all of that in mind if you're going to go out and buy a weapon for the purpose of hunting. Now, if you already have a weapon, chances are there is a species, a unit, a season where you can hunt with that weapon. So if you've already got a weapon, you may want to choose what you hunt based on that weapon. Now, if you're trying to hunt ducks and all you have is a rifle, you're going to have to get a shotgun. But again, you can find all of this information in the regulations booklet. And my final advice on this is to plan time to both sight in your weapon and practice. So if you have a rifle and it has a scope on it and you haven't shot it recently, or maybe it's even brand new and you just mounted the scope on it, you're going to need some time to bring it to the range and sight it in. And it's a good idea to do this every year, maybe even more often than every year if you're hunting a lot. And you're going to need at least one session to do this. Now, just because you've sighted in your weapon doesn't mean that you're proficient with it. And just because you can hit a target at 200 yards with your rifle nice and rested on a bench doesn't mean that you can kill an animal at 200 yards under field conditions. So it's important to both sight in your weapon and practice. And if you're new to hunting and new to shooting, you haven't done it much before, this could mean 2 or 3 more sessions before the season just practicing to become proficient with your weapon. And even if you are an experienced hunter, it's a good idea to get some practice in before the season that is not just sighting in your weapon. So find a way to go out and shoot maybe in the area that you think you're going to hunt, shoot off of your backpack, shoot next to a tree, shoot from standing, shoot from laying down, and start to become proficient shooting from field positions and not just from shooting off the bench. And this is going to be a progression. Again, if you're new, maybe you need a practice session shooting at the range before you go out and try shooting in the field. But my point is, it's important to practice. It's important so that you can be successful when you're hunting. And it's also important that we are as ethical as we can be by providing a quick death to the animals that we are shooting. All right, step number 7 is to assemble your kit. This doesn't have to be fancy. It's just going to be whatever outdoors stuff you already have, plus a few specific items. So if you already like hiking, use the clothing that you use for hiking. Or if you already like to camp, just use your outdoors gear from camping. Now, if you're really new and don't know where to start, that's no problem. Go check out episodes 1, 18, and 32. Episode 1 is what do you need to start deer hunting? And that goes through all the gear you need for deer hunting. Episode 18 is called the 10 Essentials, not just for Boy Scouts. And it talks about the 10 essentials, which are good for any outdoor adventure. And then episode 32 is what to bring on a backpack hunt. So depending on what type of hunt you're going on, that may or may not be useful for you. But those episodes each cover the basic items you'll need to be safe and somewhat comfortable in the outdoors. Assuming that you have gone on a hike before or you have gone camping before, here are some hunting specific items that you will want to consider. So the first item is a kill kit, and it's actually a little collection of items. I use my kill kit after I have killed an animal to field dress and break down the animal. So the first thing in your kill kit is a sharp knife with a 3 to 4 inch blade. I like a fixed blade knife with a drop point. This knife is going to be for field dressing and skinning the animal, so it needs to be sharp and sturdy. You should also bring a knife sharpener because using your knife on an animal and especially around bones is going to dull it very quickly. So you need a way that you can make your knife sharp again, even for one animal. You should also have some game bags in your kill kit. These are bags made from a lightweight, breathable material. Some people even use pillowcases sometimes. And you put the meat into a clean game bag, and it helps keep flies and dirt off of the meat while still allowing the meat to cool and even dry off. So game bags are really important. You can get them at any sporting goods store. You may want a zip tie in your kill kit, and you use the zip tie to attach your tag to your animal, which we will talk about later. You may want some parachute cord in your kill kit so that you can tie meat up in a tree if you need to leave it for some time, or even if you need to drag an animal out and you need some rope to drag it with. And then I also keep some black trash bags in my kill kit. They are a multi-use item. Often I will use them to line my backpack when I put a big piece of meat into my backpack, just so my backpack doesn't get bloody or dirty. You can also use them to make a shelter and keep your meat dry. Or if you need to set something down on the ground, you can set it down on a clean trash bag instead of in the dirt. So there's all sorts of uses for those trash bags. So that's your kill kit. Other items that you will want is a first aid kit. It would just be dumb to go hunting without a first aid kit. You are using sharp knives, you are using guns, you are putting yourself in more dangerous scenarios than everyday life. And oftentimes you're going to be alone or away from other people. So you need to bring a first aid kit when you're hunting. You're obviously also going to bring your weapon and your ammunition. You may want to bring binoculars. I find that binoculars are a piece of gear that I bring on every hunt. It almost doesn't matter what the species is. I'm going to bring binoculars because they're helpful for seeing distances in open country, and they're also helpful for seeing through brush in thick, close country. The last hunting specific item that you may need is hunter's orange. Depending on where and what you are hunting, you may be required to wear blaze orange clothing so that you're visible to other hunters. So once you've got those items together, you will likely have everything you need to go hunting successfully. All right, so we're moving right along and we're getting closer to actually going hunting. Step number 8 is to make a plan for if you're successful. And this is actually a big hang up for people. I've had multiple people tell me that they're comfortable with hunting, they know how to shoot, they can find animals, but they don't know what they would do with the animal once they've killed it. Okay. And that's reasonable. You do want to know what you have to do to make it into something that you would want to eat, right? So it is important to think through the whole process, not just how you are going to kill the animal, but also how you are going to field dress the animal, transport it, keep it cool, and get the final product, which is meat for your table. So the big one is field dressing, which is gutting the animal. And most people feel somewhat uncomfortable with this. And the best way to learn to field dress an animal is to have someone teach it to you. If you know someone who hunts, have them come hunt with you and help you do that. But it's not impossible to learn how to field dress without someone teaching you. It's actually very possible because we have YouTube. So what I recommend is to start watching videos of people field dressing the animal that you want to hunt. So if you're going to hunt white-tailed deer, start watching videos about people field dressing white-tailed deer. There's lots of them, and you will begin to see different ways that people do it, and you'll get different perspectives from different videos, and you'll start to understand what the goal is, what the overall process is, and get an understanding of how you can do it yourself. Now, go one step further and find the best one, the one that makes the most sense to you, and download it to your phone. And this way, when you're out hunting, once you've killed your animal, you can just play that video and follow the process step by step, just like if you had someone there to teach you. And the first animal that you field dress is going to be a little bit messy. It's not going to be perfect. But don't let that part of the process stop you from hunting. It's something that you're going to learn. It's something that you're going to become better at. And personally, for me, I think it is one of the most interesting parts of the hunting process. And you don't want to miss out on the whole experience just because you're afraid that you can't field dress an animal. The next thing you want to think about is how you are going to get the animal out of the woods. You're in luck. I've done an episode on this. It's episode 5, how to get a deer out of the woods. You are basically going to have to drag it, or you're going to cut it up into large pieces and bring it out of the woods in a backpack. Those are your two main options. The final thing you want to think about is, where is this animal going to go? Are you going to bring it home, or are you going to bring it to a processor? When I first started hunting deer on my own, I brought my animals to a processor. So all I had to do was get them to my car, and then I could bring it to the processor, drop it off whole, and they would take care of it from there. Or I had field dressed it, so I had got the guts out and everything. But then I would drop off the animal whole, and they would take it from there. Your other option is to process the animal yourself. And this is totally doable. I've done this before. With small game, I would recommend it. With larger game, it's going to be a bit more involved, but it's totally doable. All you need is a sharp knife, a place to cut, a vacuum sealer, and a place where you can store the animal and keep it cold while you're processing it. While it's a lot of work, processing at home is actually easier than you might expect. Most people could fit a quartered up deer in their refrigerator. So if you've got some room in your fridge, you clear some racks, you push some food to the side, you could actually probably fit your whole deer in there, and then you can work on one quarter at a time. So you could work on the back leg and cut that down, and then vacuum seal your steaks, all of that. And then you move on to the next quarter, maybe the front shoulder, however you're doing it. And if you want to learn more about this, go look for some YouTube videos on processing deer. There are some very in-depth videos, and you can basically just follow step by step. And as you do it more and more, it will become easier and easier. Whatever you choose, though, just know what you're going to do beforehand. So if you're going to bring it to a processor, know where the processor is, know when it's open, and have a plan to get the animal to the processor promptly so they can start working on it. Or if you're going to bring it home, make sure you have a cool place to store the meat, whether that's in your refrigerator, whether that's in a cooler, or if it's just hanging outside in very cold weather. If you want to learn more about keeping meat cool, which is actually very important to make sure you have an edible product at the end of your hunt, go check out episode 34, How to Keep Meat Cool While Hunting. All right, step number 9 is to get your license and tags. Your license is just what it sounds like. It allows you to hunt. And usually to buy your first license, you are going to have to show proof of residency. If you're getting a residence license, you are going to show that you've completed a hunter education course, and you will need to bring some form of identification like your driver's license. Once you've completed your hunter education course, it's pretty easy to get a hunting license. Now, hunting licenses will sometimes be split up into large game and small game licenses, so pay attention to that. If you know you want to hunt elk or bears or deer, you're going to need a large game license. If you're only hunting animals like squirrels or rabbits or ducks, you may only need a small game license. If you have any questions, go verify in the rules and regulations booklet. Now, tags are a little bit different. Tags are a receipt that you get, and once you kill an animal, you actually attach your tag to the animal, and it shows that you have paid for the privilege to hunt that animal. And in most places, you can only hunt as many animals as you have tags for. So, for example, I'm a North Idaho resident. I have a resident hunting license, which covers big game and small game. Even though it covers big game, I still have to get a tag to go elk hunting. So I pay the fee for the elk hunting tag, and that means I can hunt one elk. Now, a second elk tag costs a lot more, so I'm not going to get a second elk tag. But hypothetically, I could go through the process to get a second elk tag, and therefore I could hunt 2 elk. So that's how tags work. For some animals, you may only be able to get 1 tag. For others, you may be able to get multiple. It just depends on where you're hunting. Now, there's 2 main ways that tags are distributed, and those are over the counter or in a drawing. So an over-the-counter tag is a tag that you can just go to a sporting goods store that sells hunting licenses, and you can buy that tag over the counter. You just pay the fee, and they give you the tag. Other units and other states will have a drawing system for getting tags. So basically how this works is that everybody who wants this specific tag is going to do an application, and this can be as simple as just paying a fee and letting the state game agency know you want to hunt that animal in that unit. And these application periods are going to come well before the hunting season so that they can get all the applicants, and then they can draw a certain number of people to receive a tag. And then they'll let you know that you've received the tag either by email, or you can go online and check if you've received a tag. And eventually a tag is going to be mailed to you, or you can print it out. And the advantage of having a drawing is that you can limit the amount of hunters hunting in an area, which then allows animals to grow older. It means there are fewer hunters pressuring the animals, and it can make for a higher quality hunting experience. Now, if you're listening to this podcast in August of 2025, chances are that the application periods for tag draws are over. But that's okay. There are still animals that you can hunt with an over-the-counter tag, and there's all kinds of animals that you can hunt without a tag at all. So if you've missed the application period or your state or unit has a drawing to get tags, don't worry. You can apply in the next one, and there's other things to hunt in the meantime. There is a little bit more to entering a drawing and getting a tag. You can find all of this information in a regulations booklet or online on your Fish and Game Agency's website. I'm not going to get deep into it here, but I will consider doing a podcast on it in the future. All right, guys, the final step in this process is, of course, to get out and hunt. And it sounds easy enough. You know where you're hunting, you know what you're hunting, you know the regulations, all that. But I'm going to give you a few tips to help you get started. So tip number 1 is to go hunting with a friend who hunts. Your friend is going to be a valuable resource to help you understand the actual strategy of hunting. So where to sit and where to find animals at what time of year, and when to push in and make a stalk, and when to hang back and wait for a better opportunity. If you know someone who hunts, pick their brain and start learning about these things from them. On the flip side, though, make it a goal to be able to hunt by yourself. If you can hunt by yourself and you feel confident from start to finish, you are going to have so many more opportunities to hunt. Sometimes your friend is going to be busy, and sometimes you will just realize you have a free afternoon or evening that you can go out by yourself. And to capitalize on that, you need to be able to hunt on your own. And this is totally doable for most people. I think most people are actually capable of going out and hunting even animals the size of deer on their own. Even without tons of experience, I think you can do it. I think you can learn the skills you need to learn, and most people are going to be able to handle it. So have some confidence, be willing to make some mistakes along the way, and I think you'll figure it out. The last thing I want to touch on is strategy. Actually finding the animals and getting close enough to shoot them is a whole nother podcast, right? But there are a lot of resources online that can help you get oriented. So if you're hunting white-tailed deer, for example, there's lots of videos that can show you the basic ways that people hunt white-tailed deer. Here's a couple resources that have helped me. So there's a TV show called Meat Eater. You can now find it on YouTube or on the meateater.com website. And on this show, you can see lots of different styles of hunting. So you can see people hunting from tree stands. You can see people walking around and looking for squirrels. You can see people duck hunting. And it's super helpful just to get an idea of what people actually do once they get into the field. Any TV show or video is going to leave some things out. It's not the complete experience, but it can be helpful to get you oriented and help you understand some of the big picture strategies. If you're interested in hunting Western big game, there's a podcast called Live Wild with Remy Warren. He is an expert hunter. He's spent a ridiculous amount of time in the field. And especially if you're interested in hunting elk or mule deer, go check out that podcast. You will learn a lot. If you're interested in hunting whitetail, there are 2 really good resources on YouTube: Whitetail Habitat Solutions with Jeff Sturgis. The guy is amazing. He pulls out a whiteboard and teaches you things about whitetail that you would never know. It's a really good way to get some in detail strategy on how to determine where you sit and wait for a whitetail to come. And then there's also the Wired to Hunt Foundations podcast with Tony Peterson. Wired to Hunt has a couple different hosts, but personally, I found Tony Peterson to just be something of a whitetail wizard, and he does a great job of explaining how to start whitetail hunting to a new hunter. So go check out those resources. There are many other videos and podcasts online that are available. And by getting some of this information from hunters who are much better than I am, you can start to get an idea of what sort of strategies to try in the field. Of course, if you don't have time to do that, the other best teacher is to just go out and hunt. So if you know deer live in a specific area and you can hunt that area, just start going out and trying it. Try to find them. Try to get close enough to shoot them. And the more you do that, the more you're going to learn. And eventually, with enough time and practice, you will be successful. All right, guys. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you. There's a lot of information to absorb up front, but like I said earlier, it's kind of like learning the rules of a board game. The more you play, the easier it gets. If you've listened this far and still have questions, let me know. Likely it's something someone else is thinking as well. You can shoot me an email at persistenceoutdoors2022@gmail.com. Drop a comment on Spotify or YouTube, or you can reach out to me via Instagram. Just search Persistence Outdoors and you should find it. With that, I will wrap this up. Go schedule your hunter's education course if you haven't already, and I will catch you next week.